Hello everybody, my name is Ronnie. This is Dicey Rolls. I'm DMing a game for kind of a group of my friends I've run campaigns for before, and I'm calling that campaign the Dread Sentinels campaign. And I just thought it'd be kind of worth having a session 0 for anybody who's watching that. We're going to put up some videos for it and hope you find it entertaining, but I think it's worthwhile to have a little bit of a background kind of explanation. Maybe the first place to start is kind of about running a game. You know, everybody's game is going to be pretty different, and I always like hearing about or kind of observing, getting ideas from other people's games. But that definitely doesn't mean that you have to run something that somebody recommends or finds good in their game. I think the biggest thing is being in tune with the kind of game that you and your players want to run. So if there's something that you can do to alter your game and really play up the gritty kind of mechanics, if that's what you guys want to run, if that's what your group wants to run or wants to play, you've got people that go hunting every year or kind of big on survival, orienteering, that kind of thing, they might love a game like that. But somebody who's not as interested in that kind of thing and wants to run something that's a little bit more social encounters or combat or dungeon crawling, the same mechanics that might make a game fun for one group are not going to work for another group. So I hope you guys just kind of find it the way that I do, just a kind of a springboard for ideas and that kind of thing. Some of it I've lifted from the Dungeon Master's Guide. I don't know if maybe it gets overlooked pretty easy, but I don't hear a lot of people talk about it. And maybe the first thing is side initiative. I was getting really bogged down with trying to track multiple characters and a lot of ads at the same time, and then I read that in the book and I started trying out a side initiative, and for me it worked really well. I liked it because I could just not think about it and let all the player characters go, and then I could just worry about pouring on the pressure kind of at the end of the turn with all the monsters and the baddies and stuff. The thing that I liked about that, obviously you sacrifice balance in a way from monsters getting to go in between players and that kind of thing. But what I found, especially with a mechanic that I'll talk about probably in another video that I added in for my game, was that the players really think as a team when they all get to go first or whatever order they choose. I found that a lot of times players were thinking about going first so they could heal somebody else or helping somebody out to help maximize their turn, and I thought that was a pretty neat thing that I wasn't expecting. And so if it's something that sounds interesting to you guys, I hope you give it a try. I found that it really helped my games run a little bit smoother for this. Yeah, side initiative. So side initiative, it's page 270 in the DMG. There's one list, it's under a heading, it's combat options at the top of the page, and it's got one that's a static, an initiative score where you just always have 10 plus your dex modifier. And maybe you didn't know about that. That's in the right kind of game, that could be really useful too. That could really help your combats sail along without having to worry about taking down totals and having to start an encounter that's going right into combat and then, oh, freeze, everybody roll their initiative, jot, 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 right. You would definitely know where you're at in the scheme of things, and it would just kind of flow a little bit better. The nice thing about that might be if somebody really wants to pour their attention into being a quick or a dexterous character, maybe that's kind of really rewarding for them to know, hey, I'm going to get to go first, I'm going to be able to have an effect on this combat before it really kicks off. But for some, that's not going to be a great one either. And right underneath that is the side initiative thing, so check it out, read it if you like it. They have you rolling for it. Each side makes a roll, and that could be a good thing, but I found it just was kind of easy to say, hey, the players are kind of, the characters are the center of the story. We're just going to present an encounter. I kind of let them go first, and then if I'm worried about them taking something out so quickly before it gets a chance to play around in the combat, it's really easy to deal with that with waves. So they'll feel like they've smashed face, wrecking house starting off, and then you can still bring in like another wave of something, or whatever you need to kind of have your main part of the encounter that you're planning. So there it is, page 270. Check it out. The background for this campaign, the reason we're calling it Dread Sentinels campaign, some of it is kind of gone back and forth of a book that I'm working on writing, and there's definitely material that's happened in the game that's kind of given me inspiration for the book, and definitely the book was probably the big kicker for the campaign. And it was something we ran into also in our previous campaign that I ran with these guys. And they were fighting succubus, and I think it's in the DMG, some of the background in the monster block and that kind of thing, about that when you kill them on the material plane, they don't really die. They go back and they reform in the abyss or whatever, and it takes them a year before they completely reform, or a year and a day before they can come back to the material plane. But it had a little note that if you go to their plane of existence when they're back there reforming, you can kill them for good. And I thought that was such a cool idea. I kind of made this campaign around it, to where the idea is that once somebody figured that out, that you could kill demons or devils for good, there's kind of this organization called the Dread Sentinels that train people and train squads and send them to essentially to hell, to the abyss, to the negative plane, to kill as many demons as you can, because hey, if you're killing them there, you're kind of killing them for good. So they're trying to get a leg up on this conflict between demons and the material plane and that kind of thing. So that was the idea that I had, and I've really enjoyed it. If that gives you an idea for your campaign, I'd love to hear about it. I think it's been a lot of fun for me. And the other thing that I think is kind of neat about it is I'm running it in segments. So there's one segment where they're in a certain part of certain dimension of the layers of the abyss, that kind of thing. And I think it's going to be fun to really look at very different styles or settings or mechanics for each of the layers that they go through. So I'm really looking forward to that. And so that's kind of where it begins. They kind of drop in, and they have some help from kind of angelic beings and that kind of thing that they can call in as reinforcements. But just as it would be difficult for the demons to exist on a good aligned plane, it's just suffused with good energy, it's kind of hard for the angels to exist in this negative plane. So they need help from the material plane, from all these characters. So their main goal is essentially to wipe out this negative plane, wipe out all the layers of the abyss, or just completely extinguish hell, which is going to be a wild ride. So if you want to watch me struggle and flounder as I take a group, or attempt to take a group to level 20 as they overthrow hell, stick around, because I don't think I'm going to have an easy time doing it. And I will learn a lot from it. I hope you learn a lot from it too. So that's really kind of the nuts and bolts of it. And I think in some of the videos, the sessions that we kind of run, I think we kind of explain it a little more sometimes when the players have questions, that kind of thing. But I think that's a good little background to kind of know what we're trying to do with that campaign, or at least it's not set in any of the modules or like the standard D&D settings. It's just a homebrew thing that I've done. And I guess another thing that might be kind of good to know, or food for thought for other DMs, is the way I'm treating the cosmology of it. I'm just kind of going with like a good aligned plane, a neutral material plane, and this evil plane. And within each of those planes, there's going to just be essentially dimensions or layers that would be the 7 layers of the abyss, or the different aspects of good, for the plane of good, or different dimensions and aspects of the material plane that are the fire, the water, the earth, the air, that kind of thing. So it's definitely not like the standard way that I see it in the books, but it's just something that made it a little bit easier for me to kind of run, and so I'm kind of just sticking with it. And yeah, I think that kind of does it for some of the background of the campaign. If there's things that you wonder about, um, ask away. I'll do my best to answer them. There might be things that I haven't thought about though. So we just hope you enjoy these sessions. We have fun with them, and we hope you find it entertaining.